The future cults that we'll be told to swallow are the new Islamic terrorist cells that are going to blow up the New York tunnel and blow up the... All of this is part of a strategy of tension, to create fear, to create a new enemy. Now that communism is gone, the new enemy is the independent, bungling terrorist who can't get his bombs right, who tries to get money back on his van after he blows up the... 4 times he goes back to get his return. And it's all based on evidence, or at least we'll call it evidence. Well, it's sort of like the expert said, the bomb that they had was exactly sort of like the other bomb. So if you looked at these two, I'm quoting, if you looked at these two bombs, you'd say, is that like that? And you'd say yes. This is expert testimony on the connections. They had almost no evidence, and yet they're willing to go and bomb Iraq one more time, which tells you also, I think, that Clinton's not in charge. And Clinton's Secret Service cars were right next to the place that the bomb went off. He was going up there on Monday. I think they sent him a little message, either play the game out in Iraq the way you want us to in the Middle East, or, because he's going toward Dayton, trying to calm things down, and the military's saying, no, you're not going to be a draft dodger this time. You've got to take the forces of the world into their natural conclusion. So the idea is that we can't establish any alternative lifestyle. We have to live in distrust and fear of each other. We have to, as my friend Lori in California wears this great button that says, keep quiet, consume, and die. The space between our ears and our history itself is a commodity of the national security state. We can't have a counterculture or a counter-economy. We can't survive. We have to sit back and watch in silence as genocide goes on worldwide, as indigenous cultures are smashed, as the economy goes to ruin and we all become useless eaters, as terrorism, and especially I think now what's being touted as an atomic terrorist scenario, will be the next level, so that we can go to martial law without any qualms, and then maybe alternative 3, so that the select elite can get off the planet to Mars and the Moon and leave us behind in the mess that they've left. But I'm not a pessimist, because they do all this realizing the enormous strength of the enemy that they actually face. Not the third world, they're not afraid of them. Not communism, which has fallen on its knees and carrying out the dullest plan of exploitation for the 1940s. They only have one enemy left. You and me, us. And we're the most fearful enemy they can imagine. They wouldn't go to these lengths if they didn't think we were dangerous. And once we catch on and take our minds back and our lives back and say no, then the gig's up.
Yeah, boy.
I believe we live under a very advanced stage of techno-fascism in this period, but we're blinded to it by the lies that that same system tells us. We're blinded into thinking that we live in a democracy. All a democracy means to George Bush and the rulers at the top is a system that protects their privilege. And all that communism means to them, or terrorism, or whatever it is because now, I mean, I must be a terrorist by their definition. If a liberal is treated as a bit dirty word like a communist in the 50s, then a radical must be a terrorist. So, I'll take responsibility for being a conceptual terrorist. I don't carry bombs around, I don't bomb people or shoot people, and I don't think you can beat them at that game. You can't beat them at the pop gun game. You've got to beat them up here. You've got to take that control away from them, so that the guns don't matter. You can't arm yourself enough or build the barricade that's going to stop this level of technology. You can get the people who are asked to do that death dealing to turn those guns around, and it's happened in history. And you can do the first most important thing, I think, is to tell your own story to each other, because part of what we've lost is the trust to tell each other the history of our own lives. And if we did, much of this would break down. I found out that the main scrub nurse for the leading American lobotomist, Dr. Friedman, who performed 5,000 lobotomies himself and developed the transorbital knife, was my Aunt Jay, who worked in Washington. I just happened to mention his name at a Christmas gathering and it came out. I didn't know that before, but those family connections are there for all of us. We all have secrets our parents don't tell us, we don't tell each other, but if we did, much of the control would break down immediately. We're told to distrust each other and not tell anybody what we do or who we are, and to live in little units and protect ourselves. So yes, I think there's a conspiracy, although I think the word from the Latin means to breathe together, and some people have worse breath than others. You know, I mean, I conspire too, not on their level, but I conspire for consciousness and for a change. So it doesn't mean that much to me. But yes, there's concentrations of wealth and concentrations of power in the society, and they reside in fewer and fewer hands, and they are the basis for an emergence of fascism in a society, and that's what I think we live under.